Are you ready to join the conversation, or better yet, take part in the conversation after the show? I invite you to stick around. We're here to advise, train, and come alongside women who are ready to grow their businesses and live with faith, abundance, vitality, overflow, and rewarding relationships. We are on a journey to uncover the secrets of living with favor while experiencing fulfillment from running our own successful businesses. I'm Lisa Mosbey, the host of Living with Favor. And today I want to talk about why do I always think about food? I have been promoting a workshop, or have been facilitating a workshop on Saturday mornings, talking about health and wellness and weight management and the challenges that we faced. And so this topic is one we've been studying for the last month, and I thought, why not? I will share it with you all today. But first, I want to talk more about the show. FAVOR is an acronym, and it's an acronym for the 5 principles that I want to talk about address each week. And this week we're talking about vitality. I'm bringing it into vitality. So the promise of the show is to create a conversation circle, a safe space where folks can get their tough questions answered. That's why I invite you to stick around after the show. We'll introduce our topic. Usually I have a guest expert, and we'll have a guest expert next week and going forward. But our guest expert will bring us a topic, and then I want to invite our brilliant audience to ask questions and to share their experiences around each of those topics. So if you can, stick around after the show, and we will talk more about today's topic. Before we get into that, though, well, actually, let's just dive in. So why do I always think about food? I was facilitating this workshop, and somebody asked me the question, why do I always think about food? And so I polled the audience and said, is she the only one? Who in here is constantly thinking about food? You're finishing the last meal in preparation of the next meal, or having thoughts of preparation of the next meal, or what I'm going to eat for the next meal, or what am I going to eat next might be some of the conversations. And staggering. It was staggering. Probably 3/4 of the room, maybe more, but at least 3/4 of the room raised their hand. And so that was an eye-opener for me. I've been facilitating these kinds of workshops for over 3 years, actually longer than that if you count the herbalist workshops that I had done. I never asked the question before. So it was kind of like, whew, eyes wide open with that one. What does that mean? Why are we so driven to think about that? So I started to do a little deep dive. I have some notes on it that I want to share with you today and kind of cover some of these topics. But this is under the V for vitality. We're talking about vitality and how to live with vitality. There are times where we might get into vitality for your business. This is a business show, but if you don't have the energy and the strength and the focus, the mental focus to be able to do your business and to keep track of all the balls that you have to juggle in the air, you're not going to be very successful. And so having a physical body that's healthy, optimally, and able to function contributes to running a successful business. So that's why I thought maybe we would address some of this. We'll talk about the physical body today, or actually this is more in the mind, the thought processes. So there's 2 separate different pathways that kind of regulate hunger within our body. Number 1 is the homeostatic pathway. And that is the one that says, hey, I need fuel. I need energy to get going again. I'm exhausted. I want food. And so that that pathway is the one that is regulated by our hormones, leptin and ghrelin, that tell us when we're hungry and when to stop eating. That's the pathway that we want to listen to. Unfortunately, in today's society, we've quashed it. We've pushed it down because we eat maybe based on the other pathway, and that's the hedonic pathway, hedonic, hedonic pathway. The hedonic pathway is caused or activated by our environment. Maybe we watch a food commercial. Maybe we see somebody eating a cookie. Maybe there's donuts in the break room when we get to work and we grab one to have with our coffee. So it's environmental. It can be influenced by our conscious mind, things that we see, hear, and experience, versus the other one, which is intuitive to our system. It's the one that we were given so that we knew we need to spend whatever energy we have to go hunt for food, whether that's, berries and seeds or meat product, whatever it is. If you had to go hunt and kill for food, you had to make sure that you had enough energy to do that. And so the first one is really the one that we want to be listening to and paying attention to. But we don't. We eat based on the clock oftentimes. I get up, I have breakfast because I know I have to go to work, even if I'm not hungry. Or it's noontime, I only get 30 minutes for lunch. I need to pile it in. What if I'm not hungry? What if I'm not hungry till 2 or 3 in the afternoon in the middle of my day? And then I'm going to run home and have dinner with the family at 5 or 6 or 7, right? So everything is kind of revolving around that clock rather than on the signs that we have for hunger. So how do we reactivate this? How do we get more in touch with this again? Well, first of all, conscious awareness. When we know we can do better. I think it was Maya Angelou that said, when we know better, we can do better. When we know better, we need to do better. We can't unlearn the things that we've learned, right? When we know better, we need to do better. And so now that you know that you have these two pathways and that your thought process about thinking of food all the time are influenced by these two pathways, how do we influence the two pathways? So our hormones, of course, are one way. Leptin suppresses the hunger, and ghrelin actually is released when our body is low on energy and needs some energy. And so we need to listen to those responses. But it may take some effort to flip the switch back on for that system to start working again. One of the ways is fasting. You might not love it, but maybe fasting 1 day a week, or fasting for a longer period of time, or even fasting throughout the day, saying, I'm going to do intermittent fasting where you eat all your food in a window. So you might eat all your food between 11 and 6, no eating outside of that time frame. And that's called an intermittent fast, where we give our body a rest. We turn off digestion for a while and let everything settle. It's not a bad thing to do that, even if you are paying attention to your hunger and listening to your body. When we eat all of our food in an intermittent fasting style, during the period of time when we're not eating, the body can rest and digest. It can focus on healing. Other processes in the body will be activated when they're not digesting. Digestion is the bully on the block. Digestion, when it is happening, it kind of slows or shuts down many of the other processes in our body, and the body just focuses on digestion. So we don't want to be in digestion all the time, because we have other systems that need attention and that need to be keeping us healthy. So we need to digest for food and fuel. And then when we are done refueling, we need to give the body a break on digestion. So how does that play into this? If we're doing fasting, we allow our hormones to balance out, and then we can listen. We start to listen when our stomach is gurgling and growling. Is that a need for food? Do I have enough energy to go walk around the block? Or could I go carry the kids to the park? Do I have enough energy? Maybe I'm not actually hungry, like that I need fuel. Maybe I need a glass of water. Maybe that's what that gurgling is. Or maybe the gurgling is because it's set to the clock and I saw the clock. And so there's this subconscious activity that's happening in the body. Fasting, when we can restrict, when we're fueling, when we're feeding our body for fuel, we can allow all those other systems to start, getting reacclimated to the way that they were designed. And you might do this for a week, a month, it's up to you. You'll have to see. So basically what we're trying to do is a reset. We're trying to reset our body back to a state that it knows how to function, and also tuning our conscious mind into the ability to listen to that. So things that hedonic pathway are triggered by, again, our environment around you, food availability, the thoughts that we're having, advertising, watching a commercial or a TV show. Emotions and stress also affect this. So if we are feeling stressed, or if we are in a heightened state of emotion, we may reach for food, because food is comforting and it can quash that down, those emotions. a better way of dealing with that is to actually work through the emotions, maybe get help, find a friend to talk to, seek out a professional, but or just feel the feelings, right? Cry the tears and see if that doesn't help you feel better rather than grabbing for food first. Because when we block the emotions, we never get through them. We block them, they get stuck in our body. When they bubble up, we'll eat food again. When they bubble up, we'll eat food again. So we could live this process for years and years and years if we don't start to deal with those emotions. So emotional eating is a big one, and that does fall under that hedonic pathway. So how do we shift? How do we shift gears and move into a different direction? So we'll get into that second. The other note that I made here, recent study suggests that they call it hyperpalatable food, foods that are high in sugar and fat. Sugar, fat, maybe caffeine might fall into that. Foods that are hyperpalatable, or junk foods, we'll call them, they not only stimulate the hedonic pathway in your brain, they may also encourage addictive-like behavior. So this is how we get stuck in that food circle, that thinking of what am I having next? I need more food. You're not even finished eating and you're already contemplating what your snack is going to be, or maybe what your dinner is going to be, or where you're going to have breakfast tomorrow morning if it's late in the day. So we want to get out of and break that pattern, break the chains that bind us. We want to break that pattern, and we want to try to move into that space of the homeostatic pathway of eating. So how do we do that? Our brain has, depending on what study you read, somewhere between 6,000 and 60,000 thoughts a day. It was back, I think, in what was that study? Queen's University in Canada back in 2020 said that we have 6,000 thoughts a day. But there's some other studies that are much older than that it first came on the scene and said that we have 60,000 thoughts per day. There was one by Stanford University in 2012 that talks about having 60,000 thoughts in a day. Whichever it is, here's what I will tell you about that. What they concluded was that 80% of our thoughts are actually negative thoughts. We are prone. We are amphibian. What is it? Reptilian, and not amphibian. Our reptilian brain is kind of programmed to have negative thinking. And how I mean that is it's for our own good. It's to keep us safe. When our subconscious is looking, for safe situations, it's that hair on the back of the neck that tickles when you're in an unsafe space. So it's there actually to provide safety. Unfortunately, it also has us looking for things that don't work, things, what's wrong in the situation rather than what's right. And then the other interesting fact is that 95% of the thoughts that we have throughout the day are repetitive. We think them again and again. So it makes sense that when we're done eating, we're thinking about food. And when we're done eating at lunch, we're thinking about food. And when we're done eating at dinner, we're thinking about food. I mean, we do have repetitive thoughts. It's the way that the body and the brain are built. And so how do we work with that? Can we plant seeds in our subconscious mind to have repetitive positive thoughts? Rather than just saying, what can I eat next? How do I fuel my body next? What are the best foods to fuel my body at lunchtime? What if we threw in just that one extra word? Could that be enough to shift that constant thinking of food into making better choices? And when we make better choices and we're putting better nutrients and fuel in our body, and our body gets fueled, will we be full? Will we be satisfied? So we knock down the cravings and we're not thinking of food in the same way. Yes, the answer is yes. We can actually do this. We can work with our conscious mind to plant the seeds so that we make better choices in the future. We can kind of control it. We can kind of control those cravings that we're having by the food choices that we make. If we choose better foods and the body is getting nutrients and the body is feeling satisfied, that makes a difference. But more importantly, it's those thoughts, because that's what the topic this week was, is why am I always thinking about food? The other one is it's kind of becomes a habit. When we shift our thinking to food all the time, we are not necessarily focusing on what's happening presently. So how do we get fully present when we're eating? How do we use mindfulness? I want to get into some of the tips around this idea, and mindfulness is is a few of them. But for the first tip I want to say is take it easy on yourself. Number one is, give yourself grace. Like, you didn't, maybe you did, maybe you didn't, but I'm guessing most of us didn't even know about these two pathways into the brain or how they worked. Some of us may have heard of leptin or ghrelin, but didn't really know what it did for our body and why it was so important that we let the hormones be the communication device to tell us what's going on, rather than the clock or the TV commercial or our environment, like listening to our own body. If we didn't know, there's no sense criticizing ourselves or beating ourselves up about it. Now that you know, you get to do better. So how do we do that? Give yourself grace, number one. Number two is ask yourself if you're feeling deprived. When it's time to eat, are you feeling deprived? Is the food that you are craving, is that, from that hedonic pathway, or is that out of energy? I need food to maintain. I need food to feed my brain so that I can focus on the work that I need to do, or I need food to feed my body so that I can go out and, move dirt, shovel, rock, whatever you need to do. Maybe you're working in the garden and you need fuel to actually be able to fulfill that need, whatever it is you're going to go do. So think of asking yourself the question, am I feeling deprived right now? So that's one way to use deprived. The other way to look at deprived is sometimes we say, I'm really craving chocolate, and then we go grab an apple. Or I'm really craving chocolate and I go grab a banana. And the apple and the banana are good choices, but there's an emotional piece, or there's a psychological piece of, when you're withholding things from yourself, there may be a mindset that starts to pop up of deprivation. Am I being deprived of something? And when we do that, we oftentimes will eventually eat it anyway, and we will eat 2 or 3 or 4 or many times what we would have had we just satisfied the craving. Can I give myself a single piece of chocolate, savor it, mindfully eat it, enjoy it, and feel satisfied with that? And then that deprived feeling goes away. So, would I feel deprived if I didn't do this? Would I feel deprived if I didn't eat that donut? For me, I'm not a big donut person, so it'd be easy. It's like, nope, there's no way I'd feel deprived. Now, if you're talking chocolate, maybe different. That'd be a different story. I might feel deprived and really want to have that piece of chocolate right now. So that mindset, ask yourself, are you feeling deprived because of food restrictions? When we restrict ourselves, sometimes we can get into trouble with that. Now, I'm not saying that we should dive in and eat all of it. We're just addressing the thought processes that are happening within our system. When we do that, the other natural thing that we're doing, when we take a minute to think about it, we're creating a pause. And sometimes a pause is all you need to stop a craving. It's to just get fully present with your own self, your own thoughts, your own body, how you're feeling within your own skin. That pause of thinking about that can actually squash cravings too. So grabbing a glass of water and drinking a glass of water and going, oh, I really don't need that right now. So restricting foods can sometimes cause that. So if you are on a restricted diet, are you feeling deprived? And what is going to help you to shift from being deprived into getting what you need and feeling satisfied? Because when we get to a place of satisfaction, we can stop or slow those food cravings. When we're satisfied and we know that there is enough food, if we have gone grocery shopping and we have enough food in the refrigerator that we're not going to miss a meal, that is a safe space. It's that part of the brain, that reptilian part of the brain that says there's plenty of food in the house. I am feeling satisfied. I had my meal. I can go, I can work on my day. I can focus on something else. I don't need to focus on food because it'll be there and it'll be ready. Enjoying healthy meals and snacks and prepping them is number 3. When we have the foods prepared that for our next meal, whether that's bringing a lunch to work so that you're not tempted to go out and grab something quickly, it's there. It's in the refrigerator. It's in the cupboard, ready for you when your body needs it. And if it's at 3 o'clock in the afternoon and you take your your lunch break then, because that's when your body says, I'm hungry. You have a healthy, prepared meal available to you. We're satisfying that reptilian brain because we don't have to go hunt for our food. We have access to it, and we can just let those thoughts go. Like, oh, it's noon, I have to eat now. If you're on a schedule, it's going to be more challenging. If your lunch break is scheduled, it's going to be more challenging. But still, having healthy choices available to you at that time, maybe you'll eat a smaller portion if you're not as hungry, and then have that the rest of your lunch after work on the way home, where you've actually created a little bit of hunger in your body by not overeating, just eating enough to give you the energy to get to the end of the day, and having food left at the end of the day to get you home for your meal preparation. So we're just shifting kind of how we're using our food, and we're trying to use it to fuel the body to keep going. I mentioned drinking water. Have you had enough water throughout the day? So many people don't. And then there's that flip side of, do you drink too much water? Because water can actually flush the trace minerals out of our system. It can flush our vitamins and minerals. If we're drinking gallons and gallons of water, we may need to add something to it. We can add amino acids, we can add electrolytes, we can add some trace minerals to our water. So we're getting the nutrients that our body needs. We're not flushing them out. And when our body has proper nutrition, cravings start to dissipate, because we don't need anything else. We have the food and the nutrition that our body can use to keep going throughout the day. So drink enough water, and then take a look at, am I needing to add some nutrients to my water? We can, there's all kinds of electrolyte squirts and amino acids and different things that we can add to our water a couple of times a day, just to give us the nutrition. And then we don't need to eat at that time. We can grab water and keep going with our day and feeling satisfied. Number 5, identifying patterns and triggers. Is it the donuts at the, in the what am I saying? Break room, in the break room at work, seeing the donuts or the birthday cake, when it's there, does it mean that you have to eat it? Maybe not. There's times when we should. It's your birthday. I want you to celebrate. I'm not saying we shouldn't celebrate and enjoy those things, but we can have a bite or two. We can have, cut me a small piece, right? I want to participate in the festivities, but I just don't need to overindulge. I don't need to overload my body with tons of sugar or fat or, or those starches or caffeine, whatever it is. If you want to participate in the celebration, do, but you can choose smaller portions. And it's not because you're hungry. It's not because you have to eat. You get to be back in control of it. And by getting back in control of the thoughts that you're having, it will help you to control how you manage those cravings, or how you manage those surprise over palatable foods, right? Those surprise snacks that maybe you weren't counting on throughout the day. Number 6, learning to let the thoughts pass. Asking your question, doing the pause. Am I hungry? Am I hungry right now? Or am I just going to eat that because I'm bored? If I'm bored, can I pull out my phone and play Words with Friends for a little bit? It wouldn't be engaging. It would challenge my brain. Or am I hungry? Or can I go grab some water, little electrolytes in it, and that's going to give me the boost that I need till I get to dinner time, when I really am hungry. Would I feel deprived if I didn't have it? We asked that one. That's, when we take a pause, that's another place where we can do that. What if you've just been sitting at your desk for 10 or 12 hours and you need to stand up and just stretch? Go for a walk outside, get some fresh air. There are things that we can do to let those thoughts pass. We don't have to give in to them in the moment, and then, come back to it. If you really, truly are hungry, make a meal, go have your lunch. And then consider mindful eating. Just have a couple of more here. Consider mindful eating. That's where, when you do sit down to eat, don't just grab it, stick it in your mouth and stand in the kitchen, or stand in the break room, or walk while you're eating. If you're going to eat, sit down. If you're at home, I use a placemat. I use a fancy drinkware. Sometimes I'll drink out of what looks like kind of a wine glass or a stemmed water glass. All of my cups have, today is joy. All of my cups have words on them. And so I'm very conscious about how I eat. So how can you implement some mindfulness eating techniques into eating? I would encourage you to do that. And then the last one is move more. When we move more, we can quell those thoughts. Dancing, gardening, water exercises, getting outside. So as we move more, that's kind of the last one that helps us to shift our eating and what we're thinking about. So we are getting close to the end here. I want to thank you all for joining me today. We were talking about how we think about food all the time, and I hope you have some takeaways from these 8 different tips, 8 tips, I guess we had today. 8 tips of how we can stop the rat race, stop that hamster wheel of thinking about food all day long. I encourage you to maybe check into one of these. Try some of these tips if it's something that you're constantly thinking about. On this journey together, we hope that you take away a little more knowledge to unleash your confidence, discover something unique about you, and uncover the life experience that makes you an expert on how you can help others. I'm Lisa Mosbey. I've been your host. I'm here to advise, train, and coach small business owners on digital marketing for business development. If you're a woman ready to grow your business and you need someone to come alongside you to get that digital marketing system set up and turned on, we should talk. You can find my contact information in the show notes or on the website for Living with Favor. Our desire is that you experience joy and fulfillment, the joy and fulfillment that you deserve when running a successful business, creating a residual income, and providing for your family, both personally and professionally. I invite you to grab some time with me if you have a chance. The best part of the Favor show is the conversation after the show. As I mentioned earlier, we want to dive into those tougher questions. So I invite you to linger longer and join the conversation after the show, where we go deeper on living with favor, hear from our experts. We want you to contribute your thoughts and ask your tough questions. So I hope to see you again next week when we're talking about vitality once again.